Welcome back to Kevin Toll Reads. I hope you're doing well. It is time for my weekly wrap up. Since people really seem to enjoy Saturday Shorts, me kind of going old school, I figured I'd just stick with it. I'm going to have some edits in here. I have to add some things to this weekly wrap up just because of the stuff I cover, but all in all, I'm going to try to limit the amount of edits and keep it kind of raw. So you're warned. Let's talk about books I read last week. So I added a surprise read of Valdez is Coming, threw it into my kind of weekly Western roundup book review type thing. I reviewed like 5 books because I had 2 Elmore Litter books, Last Stand at Saber River and Valdez is Coming, and then I reviewed the last 3 books by Robert E. Parker in the Virgil Cole and Everett Hitch series. So that was a huge video. But because I read this one, I had a supplemental book I threw on for this week's reading and got it done. I threw on another surprise read to complement my second Gunsmith novel. I threw in and read Hondo by Louis L'Amour. So I'm going to be doing a book review tomorrow, a dual book review. We'll be reviewing The Gunsmith, Vigilante Justice, and Hondo by Louis L'Amour. You don't want to miss that. And that will be my last video for June on the Range, is that book review of those 2 books. I also read 3 short stories for Saturday Shorts yesterday from Volume 3, Collected Short Stories by Louis L'Amour. You should definitely check that out. And reading in totality between short stories and the books I read this week, Hondo, Vigilante Justice, and Valdez is Coming was an average score around 4.0. So I don't want to give away my review of Hondo or my rating just yet. You'll have to tune into that. I did also in my research notice that there's a new Robert Langdon book coming out in September, and I kind of chuckled about it. And the reason I'm bringing it up is I was all gung-ho about The Devils coming out by Joe Abercrombie in May, along with the new Holly Gibney book, and I haven't bought either one of them. And I haven't really felt the need to jump them into a TBR or supplant any of my other kind of plans. And there's a lot of back and forth about Never Flinch, and I try not to get too into the reviews before I even read the book or try to, turn my thought process before I like to go in blind and give my own kind of take on it. But yeah, another Robert Langdon book I'm kind of excited about, but I said the same thing about Joe Abercrombie and Stephen King. So who knows? I will get to them eventually, but I'm just not in a rush. I don't know why. Reading events like June on the Range, definitely. So let's talk about videos last week. I did 6. I did my weekly wrap up, my Saturday Shorts. I did my book review of The Cold Dish, my frenemy read with Faceless at Faceless Book Reviews. I did my Sackett Rewind, my experience of all the Sackett books, all 17. Definitely want to check that out if you haven't. I did a Western book roundup where I did a book review of 3 Robert B. Parker books and 2 Elmore Leonard books. 5 books in one review. That was massive, and I probably won't ever do that again. It was just too much. A couple books is okay, but yeah, that was kind of a mess. But probably my most watched and most commented was my take about BookTube. I did another video kind of giving, here's the common negatives, the negative connotations with BookTube, and giving my positive twist on it, and it got rave reviews in the sense that there was a lot of people that really enjoyed my spin on it. And it really kind of dovetails into the BookTube community this week because there was a ton of comments, opinions, and everything else, all in great positive, there was an overwhelming sense of community. And so it's kind of, that's why I kind of saved that one for last, because it dovetails nicely into the community. And let's talk about some people that made comments or subscribed to the channel this week. Some other character, Writing for Jesus, A Genteel Black Hole, Book Gers and Purrs, Faceless, Book Chat with Pat, Luigi, Melissa Says Hi, Being Lamb, Stephen Everett 7, Nicole's Bookish Nook, Jaw Reads Just Done 6288, Vintage SF, Ginger, Bibliophile, Odd Audie Online, Book Buds, Outer World Media, Hassan Creative, Brian M. Arpronic 1, Read Becca, David Novak Reads Poetry, Book Ramble, Just Book Girl TV, Richard Adcock 5450, Books Off the Beaten Path, Novel Insights, Steve Donahue, Already Overbooked, Another Bibliophile Reads, Books with Sam, Jeff's Cave of Cool Books, Hide and Read, Reading Ideas, Power Avocado, Rick Morty BR55, Read and Reread, Hannah's Books, Secret Fire Books, Beyond Books, Mystery and Mayhem, Xanadu Castle, David Murphy, Dobby Books, Twice Born by Grace, Ridanculous, Feigner 27, Toodleskay, Pulp Mortem, Heroic Book Adventures 83, Free Indeed 7720, Dustin Neely, Storm Reads, Kara Gregory, Stuart Griffin, and D Temple 54. It was a busy week, and I enjoyed it. A lot of engagement, a lot of really cool comments, especially on my BookTube video. So if you haven't checked that out, definitely the overwhelming consensus was community is the biggest draw about BookTube, especially in our space in BookTube, and I couldn't agree more. So let's talk a little bit about comment of the week. We're going to start on the lighter side. I have a couple comments. First and foremost is from Nick at Hide and Read. He likes to, I think he's mentioned this a couple times, especially in my kind of blushing foray into adult westerns. He has made the mention several times. Does anyone actually really believe that Kevin is skipping over the spicy parts in these Gunsmith novels? I thought that was kind of funny. I actually am. I will kind of spoil a little bit on, the Vigilante Justice, book review, but I think there's like 3 spicy parts in that one. And I did, but I have to read into, okay, this is a spicy part. And then if it doesn't happen like really close to the end of a chapter, I have to read just when we start talking about normal things. And so, yeah, I do. The other one was in my Sackett Rewind video, my experience reading the Sacketts. There was one of my favorite kind of honorable mention characters was Paisano, this buffalo. And yeah, I definitely made fun of Faceless about that. And both Faceless had a comment about that. And so did Scott from some other character talking about the bison. Did it swallow the buffalo hunter? And then which side of the bison he would like mounted on his wall. Yeah, that's the lighter side of the hilariousness and some of how these comments sometimes go. The really cool side that I find really gratifying is I got a comment from Dwayne at LeoDen49. He went on to say, how the Saturday Shorts and some other Western videos have really kind of spurred him into trying out, short stories, and it's cascaded into finding new authors. And that's such a cool story. And I hear that more frequently than I showcase on the channel, and it's great. And I have a lot of current subscribers that will give me their little brief updates that don't have their own YouTube channels, but they love to comment on my weekly wrap-ups and give me their little wrap-up about their week, what they're reading, what they're excited to get to. And I can't thank you enough for those, because those are always really, really cool. And it validates, at least to me, that people enjoy the things that I'm talking about. And it's just really cool. And Dwayne gave me this blurb, and I thought it was great. It's really cool to connect with people like that and people to get some, just to get validation that people are getting something from this. And it definitely goes a long way, especially. So I appreciate that, as well as I appreciate some of the humor side as well. So let's dovetail in. Usually I talk a little bit about BookTuber Spotlight at this point, but I'm not this week because I want to focus and kind of give you kind of a recap of my June on the range. And so let's talk about books in June. I read 14 Western books in June. 14. I had 7 different authors. I read Zane Grey, Craig Johnson, J.R.R. Roberts, Lou L'Amour, Jack Schaefer, Robert B. Parker, Elmore Leonard. Yeah, I got around and I branched out into some new ones. It was really, really cool. My average score for the 14 books was a 4.21. So that was really good, really strong. My top 3 books in June of the Westerns I read, at number 1 at a 4.8 was Blue-Eyed Devil. That is the 4th book in the Robert B. Parker, Virgil Cole, and Everett Hitch series. The second highest rated book was Lonely on the Mountain, book number 17 in the Sackett series. And the third highest ranked book at a 4.5 was Resolution by Robert B. Parker. Again, another entry into the Virgil Cole and Everett Hitch series. Resolution was book number 2 in the Everett Hitch and Virgil Cole series. Really enjoyed that series. I just binged those so fast. So I'm not surprised that you have 2 of those books on the top 3. So let's talk about short stories I read in June, because not only did I read 14 books in June, I read 17 short stories. I am counting the 3 short stories I read by Louis L'Amour at the tail end of May that kind of kicked off June on the Range. And so 17 short stories in June for June on the Range. I read 4 different authors for short stories on Saturdays. I read Zane Grey, Louis L'Amour, Les Savage Jr., and Elmore Leonard. And I don't think I really read, well, yeah, those were short stories. I keep mixing up Les Savage being part of short stories and not part of the book, even though I read the whole book and it was 3 novellas. But my average score for Saturday shorts in June was a 4.07. My top 3 short stories, and number 1 at a 4.5 was Where Hell's Coyotes Howl by Les Savage Jr. from the Teton Bunch, or the Teton Bunch. Second place with a 4.4 was The Captives by Elmore Leonard. I read it from his short story collection. And then at third place with a 4.3 was Red Butte Showdown, which is actually the last short story that I read, and I read that yesterday, from Louis L'Amour. And so really cool, 14 books, 17 short stories in June. Yeah, I definitely put all my chips on the table for June on the Range. So let's talk a little bit about upcoming reading and videos. So, upcoming reading. It's kind of funny to talk about this because I have yet to publish my Reshuffle TBR, but that is coming this week, and we'll talk about that. But upcoming reading, I'm going to be doing a buddy read with Tim at Secret Fire Books. We're going to be reading The Gate of Ivrill by C.J. Cherry. I've actually just started it. I know Tim has started his. I believe he's read this before. It might be a reread for him, but it's my first C.J. Cherry, and I'm looking forward to it a lot. And so, yeah, that's going to be one of 2 buddy reads in the month of July. I'm also going to be moving on to some of the series I've been wanting to get to. And so this week, I'm going to be focusing on The Last Coyote, book number 4 in the Harry Bosch universe. And then I'm going to be reading some more Lou Archer by Ross McDonald. I'm probably going to institute this into Saturday Shorts. So, yeah, you've been warned. And so I'm going to be reading these this week. I don't know how many Lou Archer tales I'll read, but I'm excited to get back to some of these characters. And I'll talk more about that in my Reshuffle TBR, so stick around. That'll be forthcoming. Speaking of videos this week, I'm going to have a Reshuffle TBR. I'm going to have my Gunsmith and Hondo review. There's going to be Saturday Shorts. There might be another video thrown in there as well. I am going to try to scale back. I mean, I did 28 videos in June. It's a lot again. I know I was really gung-ho about June on the Range, so that definitely helped in that regard. But yeah, it was a lot. I do have videos that are in the works. I've been talking about this for the last couple weeks. I'm getting back into my library video. I have a ton of tags to get to. I don't know if I will. Tags are going to be my last thing I get to. I'm going to do some other things. More book reviews. I want to do a mid-year goals and progress report, talk about series, where I'm at. I want to do another Why You Should Read. And I'm going to have more information in July forthcoming about a reading event that I'm creating, and people can join in. It's called Indie Author August. And so, yeah, I'm going to be reading in August indie authors. And so, more to come on that. Also, I'm going to be working on another book haul, believe it or not, and another Let Me Know video. So, yeah, that's in the horizon. So, just to give you some foreshadowing of what's coming on. But I'm really excited. June was a fantastic month. Tomorrow will be my Hondo and Gunsmith, and that will be the end of my June on the Range. And I'm excited to get back into some of these series and some of these characters I'm missing. So be on the lookout for my Reshuffle TBR. And I hope you're having a great Sunday. It's coming up on the holiday week. We got 4th of July. What's not to love? I hope you're doing well. And I will talk to you all in the next one. Thanks.